Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club Podcast, where every month we deep dive into different aspects of cinema, directors, genres, actors, or franchises. It doesn't matter because it's always fun at the Film Club. I'm Dean.
I'm Becky.
And this month we are going through musicals. Some of the greatest musicals, most popular musicals, most influential musicals that Hollywood has to offer. Musical March slowly becoming my favorite theme month we do.
It is. It really is. I love Musical March.
You get a lot of variety. It's also like musicals have a very, very drastic range of quality. So sometimes you get like really funny bad ones, really, really good ones, or sometimes stone cold masterpieces like what we're talking about today.
Yes, today's episode is a masterpiece. Try to fight us on it. It's true. Ask anybody, because we're talking about The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz from 1939, directed by Victor Fleming and some other people we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
Comes out of MGM Studios. It stars Judy Garland and kind of makes her an icon.
Yeah. She is shot to icon after this movie.
Yes, it's a Wizard of Oz. There's nothing we could say that has not already been said about Wizard of Oz. It's a great movie. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Great movie.
You guys should watch it.
Definitely. It's on HBO Max. Watch it.
All
okay.
Right. Cool. Bye, guys. Those Hollywood nights. Okay, but yeah, so if you want to know the gist of it, Wizard of Oz is a great movie. If you don't like it already, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Or if you've never seen it by now.
That's possible. We'll get into that, but we're going to be talking about Wizard of Oz today. And it's probably one of the best movies we've talked about on the podcast, just like purely in terms of like critical acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Like The Godfather, Singing in the Rain might be might be higher on that list.
Yeah.
Because we talk about a lot of old Hollywood movies and like movies that are
Hollywood.
Love old Hollywood. But The Wizard of Oz is almost in like a class of its own with like The Godfather and Singing in the Rain, where it's the movie gods just blessed this film.
Even though it was one of those film sets where it was just a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, the making of this movie is nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, it's a movie that's kind of blessed by the movie gods to just become a beloved classic.
Yeah.
No matter the flaws of the movie, because the movie has flaws, there's things that are like weird about it. It doesn't matter. It's like Singing in the Rain that has no plot is still one of the greatest films of all time.
It really is.
You know, it's stuff like that, right? Where it's blessed by the movie gods to just be this perfect object, no matter what's wrong with it. And we're going to talk about it today because eventually every podcast that talks about old Hollywood movies is going to talk about Wizard of Oz.
And we waited long enough to talk about Wizard of Oz.
Gone with the Wind is just on the horizon, folks. When we do our 3-hour minimum month, every movie has to be 3 hours minimum.
And Gone with the Wind surpasses that.
Exactly. Is Gone with the Wind 4 even, or is it 3.5?
No, it's like 3:45.
3:45. Okay.
So it's just shy of being a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, I think Lawrence of Arabia is longer. Lawrence of Arabia, that is one of our episode's biggest regrets, is we only booked 2 hours for that.
Yeah.
We should have booked like 3.
Yeah.
Oh
no, we had people recording after us.
Was that what it was?
It was. We had people right behind us, so...
And our hubris. We could do Lawrence of Arabia in 2 hours. Our sheer hubris.
We bit off more than we could chew that day.
But we have a nice, tight 100-minute movie with Wizard of Oz.
Yes, we do.
Now, to get started, Wizard of Oz... It's been a while since we've done this, but I gotta ask. First time you watched Wizard of Oz, where's your background with Wizard of Oz?
I don't have the foggiest idea the first time I saw this movie. Again, it's one of these movies that's been a part of my life forever. No, I absolutely love this movie. I grew up with it. I watched it all the time. I dressed up as Dorothy for Halloween. I dressed up as the Cowardly Lion. I was like, Courage.
The Cowardly Dog.
Yeah, I was going to go there. I do love Courage. And I also have my Courage badge from when I was the Cowardly Lion. I've had this since like the 4th grade.
Where did did that come in like a costume thing, or was that from like a gift shop or whatever?
From what my mom tells me, this was the hardest accessory to find. And she lets me know that, it took her, store after store to find this because, in the gay 90s, there was no Amazon that you could go, I need, a kid's costume accessory. So she had to go to, shop after shop to find this. But what I do remember from that costume was it was a very hot Halloween. I'm dressed as a lion. So, yeah, I was sweating all day. And then I had to have my tail pinned to my side because it just kind of,
dragged along.
Yeah.
That's adorable. Absolutely adorable.
No. But I also had a Karen Terrier, same kind of dog as Toto. I had 2 Karens. So, yeah, the Wizard of Oz is very, very much a part of my childhood.
This is one of the primordial Boo movies.
Yeah. We stayed at the MGM Grand in the 90s when they had the Wizard of Oz exhibit there.
Was not aware that existed.
Yeah, it was weird. We were there.
I grew up poor, and we didn't go to no fancy MGM Grand. We went to the Flamingo or the Motel 6.
Well, I mean, my parents were there for a friend's wedding, and I guess in the lobby, because it's MGM, this is an MGM movie, they were doing a Wizard of Oz exhibit where they had, like, life-size, scaled...
like the wax figures and stuff like that?
Yeah, the wax figures of the characters and the props. And that is one of my earliest memories is walking down the yellow brick road from that. And I found the pictures and I was like, yeah, that was, we were able to walk down the yellow brick road. It wasn't just, kid brain. I totally did that too. It's like, no, I got to do that. That's weird.
I'm learning so much today.
You got to see those pictures.
I did get to see those pictures. But yeah, because... what is it? We do a lot of movies here, and every once in a while we'll do a movie where I'm like, oh, this is just some random like old Hollywood movie. It'll be fun. And you come on and you're like, this movie is so near and dear to me that if you say anything bad about it, I'll just leave. We'll just cut the episode.
You never know. I might just run through that door.
Exactly.
Not even open the door. Just go right through the glass.
Yeah, because like it never dawned on me how into Wizard of Oz you are, because like I guess for me, right, Wizard of Oz is a movie like you. I don't remember the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
I know I've seen the movie a couple of times as like a kid, like a little kid, because I feel like this is one of the first movies parents are like, it's on fucking TV. It's the Wizard of Oz.
It's on TBS.
It's on TBS. It's like, we have grandma's old VHS, put on Wizard of Oz. It'll entertain... I'm dying here.
It's okay.
It'll entertain the kids for like an hour and a half, and we'll go like eat dinner or do something, or just like not be around the kids because they're fucking hellions.
There's singing, there's dancing, there's bright colors. There's nothing really bad in the movie, so it's like you could sit a kid down in front of the TV, and they're going to be okay.
We're going to get to the part of this movie where it's fucking nightmare fuel for a 5-year-old, but
we'll see.
Yes, I know what you mean. It is a thing where, I have no like memory of watching it for the first time, but I know I did because when I rewatched it as an adult, like a couple of years ago.
Because David Lynch?
Kind of, yeah. The movie is like hugely influential on like a lot of filmmakers, Tarkovsky, Sam Raimi, Del Toro, but David Lynch is the one everyone's like, David Lynch has just been like ripping off the Wizard of Oz his whole career, but
I mean, you could,
not really, because his work is incredibly unique and singular, but
and yeah, I
heavy influence.
I wouldn't call it a ripoff. I'd call it, homage, because you see it in so many of his movies, and you don't expect to see it, and then it's like, oh wow, that's Glenda, that's this.
That's literally the Good Witch in Wild at Heart.
Wild at Heart, yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I'm just saying because I rewatched this as an adult, and it was like when we did Singing in the Rain, another movie blessed by the movie gods of just being, it's a perfect object.
Yeah.
Watching it, I'm like, oh, this is washing over me like a warm fucking blanket. Holy shit.
And you fought me on that.
Yeah, a little bit, because I was like, oh, Wizard of Oz is like fine. It's like a kid's movie. I don't want to fucking watch it. I'm watching like Bergman, or I'm watching like fucking Predator for the 107th time that year. I watched Predator a lot. Predator's another one of those movies blessed by the movie gods to be perfect. But like, watching Wizard of Oz as an adult, I'm like, fucking Christ, this is Pixie Sticks, and it's loud, and and oh god damn it, I love every minute of it. Son of a bitch. God damn it. Because it is like, again, I'm gonna say it over and over, it's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
It's not very heavy. The plot is light as hell. It's really like It's literally just like we're gonna walk down the road, pick up some travelers, and go to like the magical land. It's a fairy tale, and it's like a perfectly told fairy tale.
Yeah.
Which is why I find it so fascinating that the making of this movie was a fucking old Hollywood hellscape.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about how this movie came to be?
I think we have to. I mean, because we could, go on and on about, what's perfect about the movie, but we have to talk about...
We have to talk about the movie eventually.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to, but there was a lot of turmoil in making this movie.
Yeah, because the guy who produces it, he wants to make it because Wizard of Oz is from like 1900, right? That's when the first book was published. And Frank L. Baum, who wrote all of them, wrote like 14 sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a long series. It's not like...
book.
It's not one book, right? Like, it's a thing...
It's like the adventures in Oz.
Exactly. And it's a thing where I think people kind of don't realize that there's so many sequels in room. And the land of Oz is like Middle Earth. There's a lot more there than you think it is. I would love to see Frank L. Baum's Silmarillion. That would be wild. But... the producer reads the book as a kid, falls in love with it. It's 1938-ish, and he's like, I love the silent adaptation of this, because there's a silent film version of Wizard of Oz.
And it looks very similar to this movie.
Exactly. They borrowed a lot of the designs because that was the popular context of Wizard of Oz in cinema, and it's also, I will say, the silent version is a little nightmare fuel. It's a little creepy to watch.
It's kind of like the Frankenstein silent, the Edison one.
Yes, but that's just because the makeup on the Frankenstein and the Edison version is so strange and like creepy looking. It doesn't feel right to watch that movie. I can talk about old silent movies all day.
Of course you can.
But wants to make the movie, pulls every string in the book to get the rights to it, and there, I believe, is 3 or 4 people who end up directing parts of Wizard of Oz, because Victor Fleming is eventually the one who gets credited as director, right?
Yes.
Even though I think the same year he's going back and forth
with Gone with
the Wind, which Gone with the Wind is also a film that had like 2 or 3 directors attached to it. But Victor Fleming's eventually the one who gets credited. But I think there's like George Cukor, who also was the director of Casablanca, I believe. No. George Cukor was Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Maybe.
I can't remember.
I could look things up if you want me to.
It's fine. I just know George Cukor was attached at one point, and he was the one who actually got Judy Garland her look, and he was the one who actually put together a lot of like the look of Oz.
Yeah.
But King Vidor is the one who directed all the Kansas sequences, and you might be hearing this and thinking, why was there so many people coming in and out and doing so much work on this movie? And it was because so many people got fucking fired from this film. Yeah. The physical, like, making of Wizard of Oz, this whole production got canceled, I think, 3 times, where they just shut down production. One of them was because the gentleman who played the Tin Man originally almost died. Yeah, that was terrifying. I mean... Again, you're using what was it? Well, explain the whole situation for him, because there was a gentleman who was originally cast as the Tin Man, and they put silver face paint on him. I think it was aluminum powder. They put aluminum powder on his face to make him look like the Tin Man. It's powder, so you're gonna inhale it, and he ended up inhaling it because he's alive. And he went home. Wait, he was alive? He was alive. He wasn't really made of tin. Who would have known? That was his fault. But he ended up going home and not being able to breathe. It took a long time for him to recover. And they kind of, took him out of the cast and recasted him with Jack Haley, who they put aluminum paste. Was that what it was? They kept the aluminum, but they put it in a paste form instead of a powder form, which probably still gave him, medical issues later on in life, because that's aluminum on your body entering your pores. Or like when it snows in the poppy field scene and it's nothing but asbestos. Yes. Yep. God damn it. Back in the old days when movies were movies and people died from asbestos inhalation. Before it was powdered mashed potatoes. Yes, from It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah. Another movie we should talk about. We will. And that's a movie that makes Dean cry every time. That movies blessed by the cinema gods. That's the pantheon.
And The Wizard of Oz is the one that makes me cry every time.
Every time, which is we'll get into it because it is the ending of the movie is a little bit of a tearjerker, and I think that's what it's going for.
Yeah.
But the whole thing about the making of it, right, is it gets shut down because the Tin Man actor, he almost dies, so they're like, okay, we have to cut him, we have to figure out what to do because you have to recast him. There's also the issue where they wanted to fire Judy Garland like every other day because I don't understand this. All right, and I hope you have some context for me here because, you're more entrenched in The Wizard of Oz than I am. Why did everyone at MGM fucking hate Judy Garland? They were calling her the Little Miss Piggy. They called her names. They called her fat.
Yeah.
They said she looked stupid. She was originally in a blonde wig and some baby doll makeup until George Cukor was like, X-nay that shit. It looks fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't remember them wanting to fire her every other day. I know that they made her weight an issue. I mean, she was only 16 when she made this movie.
Yeah. She's 16 trying to play like 10?
Yeah, because Dorothy's supposed to be a child, and originally they wanted Shirley Temple for the movie, and it didn't work out for whatever reason, which would have went in line with why this movie was made, because of the success the year before with Snow White, with Walt Disney. So they were like, hey, this was based off a book. It was the biggest movie of all time at that point. We can do the same thing. So it's like, you have Shirley Temple that was working with Disney at that time, and they get Judy Garland, who was 16, and I think that works better with this world. Mm-hmm. Like, if they had Shirley Temple be a part of the cast and she's a little girl, I think that's when it would have felt more like a kid's movie.
Well, there's also something that to be said about the actual range of an actor at this point, because like don't get me wrong, I haven't seen like every Shirley Temple film, right? But like she is a good kid actor for 1930, which is she knows her line, she can hit her marks, and she's kind of charming. She's not a great thespian. Judy Garland, on the other hand, is, she's not a great, like, I can't give her Macbeth and say, give me the Queen Macbeth soliloquy. No, but she's like good in this because she feels more naturalistic than like Shirley Temple would have. And also the fact that there's a level of like maturity to her, but you can tell she's tapping into a much younger kid mindset. So it's almost like the thing where if you're the audience member, you're like, guys, yeah, I'm a grown up, but like, just play into it. Like, we're all here to enjoy like the fantasies of youth and like the kids and all this other stuff. It almost plays better that she's older playing younger than if it was somebody age appropriate. Because that does happen in like Return to Oz with Fairuza Balk, who's like 10 in that movie, which is that movie is also cocaine and nightmare fuel. Well, don't watch Return to Oz. Don't let your kids do that. It will fuck them up. Well,
one, Judy Garland and Shirley Temple are great actresses. You need to watch more of their work because I mean,
I've seen Meet Me in St. Louis. All right,
thanks to me. But no,
we've seen Gay Paris.
Yes, we have. Great movie. They are great actresses. I mean, Shirley Temple for being, that young and being able to dance and sing and act and just really pull on your heartstrings. And Judy Garland, she was also, a child prodigy in a way where she grew up with, she was acting from such a young age, with stage performances and then moving up to the actual stage at 16. And, your first movie is The Wizard of Oz.
I don't think it was her first movie. I think she was making films with Mickey Rooney before this.
But I mean, like her first breakout movie.
Yeah, I suppose. The one that she's actually remembered for. I don't think anyone goes back and rewatches her in the Mickey Rooney like Kids in a Club movies.
Well, I mean, what makes it interesting, because I think the same year The Wizard of Oz comes out, I think she's in Babes in Arms with Mickey Rooney.
Yes.
And that movie was more financially successful than The Wizard of Oz was.
Yes, I know that because The Wizard of Oz suffered from the issue of being released in 1939. We're going to get to that when we get to the end.
That was a stacked year.
Yes, but again about like the making of the movie here, because, the MG, for some reason, the producers just like were cruel to her. I think Victor Fleming slapped her once when she wouldn't stop laughing during a take, and even Victor Fleming like afterwards was like, yeah, no, that was completely inappropriate. I really wish somebody would have like punched me out. I felt like a dick on that. Again, nice that he had some hindsight on that, but in the moment I'm like, don't fucking slap a 16-year-old fucking old ass director, dude. Bad move.
Never slap a 16-year-old, a woman, a girl. Like, no, just don't do it. And then,
we're anti-slapping here on the Film Club podcast.
And, they gave her so much, grief about her weight. And it's like, she's 16. She's, she's fine. She's not overweight. It's like you're trying to sell her as, a child. She's 10, 11. I'm like, okay. What do you want her to have? Like just really cut cheekbones and, she just came off the runway. Like, no, she's a little girl from Oz, or not Oz, from Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, we can go in on that even deeper, but it again, like Judy Garland has had a very rough go of it after this movie. But again, like the making of Wizard of Oz is, in a more grander scale, a very weird and troubled production because, they wanted to, they didn't like Judy Garland in the lead. It got shut down because one of the actors almost died. I think it got shut down again when Margaret Hamilton got lit on fire.
Yeah, she got 2nd and 3rd-degree burns.
Yeah, 2nd and 3rd-degree burns, like all over her body. It got shut down then. I think it gets shut down again for some sort of like strike. That one I'm not sure. I think it might have been because like the people playing the Munchkins were like gonna go on strike for more money because they found out that Toto was getting paid more than them, which, God, 1939's Hollywood when a terrier could get paid more than a person. But yeah, that's a thing. And I
mean, Judy Garland tried to adopt Toto, Terry the dog, and the trainer was just like, absolutely not. And it's like
Terry could have paying my kids through college.
And it's like Terry could have had a happy life with Judy Garland. And they got separated, which again tears my heart apart. Just I can't.
Yes,
it just hurts too much.
Yes, of course. But yeah, like the Wizard of Oz is one of those things where trouble production had a lot going wrong with it. And then you get to see what comes out of it. It almost goes into the whole thing where, like, the harder the production, the better the movie. Where it's like, would Apocalypse Now be as good if it was a smooth, like, 2 months shoot instead of it being, like, 18 months? Which I'm like, I'm sure everyone would have preferred it to be a smoother shoot, but I don't think it would have looked that fucking good. Wizard of Oz almost feels in that realm, right?
Yeah.
Because I guess this is where we got to talk about, like, the actual movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
This movie is it opens and you feel like you're in a dream world.
Yes.
Even though you're in like
Kansas,
and it's supposed to be like boring sepia Kansas. But god damn it, the fucking matte paintings, it's
beautiful.
It's beautiful. You can tell it's in like a studio, but it looks like these rolling hills of Kansas.
Yes.
How it's a fantasy. But it's like it's this big space and you're just like, "Oh my god, I've immersed myself into like the dream world of old Hollywood."
Yeah.
And you get to see like not Judy, Dorthy. Dorothy's running away with Toto and she's running away from like that evil bitch up the road.
The original Karen. Elvira Gulch.
Elvira Gulch. I didn't realize her first name was Elvira.
Yes. So see, Elvira's been a part of my life for a very long time in any shape and form.
I see. But she's running away with the dog and she's going to her farm. And I find the opening of this movie to be kind of masterful in the fact that it literally lays out the entire plot of the fucking movie in the first 10 minutes. Where we get to meet all the farmhands, and all the farmhands are going to go on later to play the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and each one of them has their own distinct character traits that leads directly into they want a brain, they want courage, they want a heart, whatever. That's all laid out. And then you also have Gulch, who is laid out to be the cruel
Wicked Witch of the
West. Her Auntie M is kind of like the good witch because she's trying to protect her, but Auntie M isn't playing the good witch later, right? But I like how the movie just lays it all out.
Even Professor Marvel.
Professor Marvel turns into Oz.
Oz,
the great and powerful.
He's also the guard. He's also the man that opens the door. He's also the carriage driver.
He's everyone.
He really had his work cut out for him.
A fun fact, they wanted W.C. Fields to be the Oz.
They did, but because of his negotiations, it just took too long before they could finalize a contract, which would have been amazing because I love W.C. Fields. You need to watch his movies.
Yes, I
You
need
love
to
physical comedy.
I do.
He is the king of it.
King of physical. Boom.
I know,
boom.
Buster Keaton. I know.
Goat Buster. I want everyone to know this. I spent my year of movies or whatever, and I watched like all of Buster Keaton's silent comedies, all of them, the shorts, the features. I will let you know, bangers all. Every last one is so fucking wonderful. Go watch Cops, Steamboat Bill Jr., Sherlock Jr., The General. 3 Ages is literally Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 1, but in a silent comedy. It is perfection. But yeah, W.C. Fields was going to be Oz. Another thing about the production of this movie is they wanted stars for this film. Yeah. They wanted like big name stars, and it kind of ends up being they get contract players for a lot of it. Margaret Hamilton wasn't supposed to be the Wicked Witch of the West. They were supposed to get another person, and then they had the redesign where they were like...
Did you see the screen test? I don't remember the actress's name. I don't think I've seen her work too much, who they originally wanted. But, I mean, this was like a Hollywood beauty.
Yes.
And they did the screen test because in the book, the Wicked Witch of the West is, an old witch. And they thought, because it's Hollywood, let's go hot.
Yes.
Hot witch. So they show the screen test for this actress, and I'm sorry, I just can't think of what her name is.
I've been calling the producer of the most popular film of all time the producer guy.
Well, yeah.
I think you're okay.
But, I mean, there's the screen tests out there, and she's gorgeous. And it's like, yeah, I don't think I would have been able to focus on the movie because she is just so striking. And then they did, the uglier, the harsh, kind of the hag witch look on her because... Again, they were comparing to Snow White, and they're like, well, that works. You have the beautiful evil queen, and then you have her alter ego, the hag. And they're like, let's try it with her. And she still was striking in the hag makeup, but she was also like, I'm hot right now. I kind of don't want to do this, where they kind of, mess with my look.
That's part of the hellscape of this production was so much of it changed halfway through. Because the Wicked Witch makeup, it got so deep into production that when that actress finally was like, fuck it, if you can't see the moneymaker baby, I'm not in the movie. Margaret Hamilton got brought on because they were like, we have her under contract and she fits in the dress.
And she was
Those were the qualifications.
She was also a popular character actor at the time. Mm-hmm. And I guess she was a single mother. She was in her 30s. Really? She was a single mother, and she was, doing all these character parts to raise her son. And I guess the producer of the movie had seen her in other, films. And there's she's got personality. And it's just, I like that. You want an evil witch that, stands out.
We'll talk about that when we get to the evil witch.
Or the
we're still in Kansas.
Yes, we're still in Kansas.
We're not even in Kansas. We're in the first 5 minutes of Kansas.
That's true. We're still in Kansas. But yes, we have, the characters that play two different characters. It's only Annie M and Uncle Harry? Uncle Henry?
Well, Uncle Ben, and Aunt Maru there.
With great power comes great responsibility, Dorothy.
That's another. There's so much Star Wars. So much of Wizard of Oz is in Star Wars. So much.
Well, hello, Professor Marvel.
We'll get into it. But yeah, but that's the thing. The first 10 minutes, or the first, I guess it's 20 or 30, we're in Kansas. We're always in Kansas longer than I think we are.
Yeah, we're not there for too long. We're mostly in Oz.
Well, that's the thing. As a kid and going back to rewatch this, I'm like, we're in Kansas for fucking 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. We go in over the rainbow and
it's a blink.
And it's a blink. We're in Kansas for a while. Mm-hmm. We get a lot of the movie lays out the entire plot and the ideas of the film right in the first like 10, 20, like the first 20 minutes of the film, right? We get to meet all the characters we're going to meet later on. Her going down that, like, you know, the yellow brick road, the yellow dirt roads of Kansas with the cornfields and everything. And she gets to meet all these people, and she's going to run away from home to save Toto.
I think it's a beautiful thing with this movie is, you know, like you were saying, you know, growing up, Kansas is like 5 minutes, and then we're immersed into Oz, and we're there the rest of the ride. And watching this as an adult, you're able to appreciate Kansas.
Yes.
That you know, 20-minute sequence where it's just, it's quiet, it's farmland. It's this girl that's dreaming about, you know, beautiful sights and not home. And wanting to travel the world and, you know, essentially having to run away from home because her dog's going to be taken away from her.
And she really wants to get over the rainbow.
Yes.
Because this is where we get the first song in the movie. And also, this is a weird note. The movie is a musical, but the songs are really kind of spaced out in weird ways. Some
of them are very short. Somewhere Over the Rainbow might be one of the longest in the movie.
I think it is. But on that note, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, the caveat to this, yes, it's one of the greatest songs of film history.
Makes me cry.
It's perfect. Yes, the Hawaiian dude who sings it on the ukulele, it's perfect. Put it up on the marker on the Hall of Fame of movie songs.
It almost wasn't in the movie.
Yeah, because I think this was a song that was like, they were thinking of cutting it because they were like, look, we don't want any songs in Kansas. We want them all in Oz to get the musical blah, blah, blah thing.
It was ridiculous reasons. I think during the second viewing of this movie, they cut it because they said it was too long. They didn't want a girl singing in a barnyard.
They also, again, another thing,
and
they were like, Judy Garland, we don't want her on screen. She can't sing with a damn... Again, they hated Judy Garland. I don't know why they hate Judy Garland. I don't get it.
Again,
I really don't.
I don't remember hearing that they hated her, but it was just ridiculous reasons where I was like, no, the song's a banger. She needs her, you know, her moment. Because the rest of the time is going to be, you know...
You know what she really needs? A nice cold one. Not sponsored. Keep going.
She's 16, and that's Arnold Palmer, so technically she could have an Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, give her due because the rest of the movie, it's going to be the ensemble singing together.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, she needs that standout moment, and you get that. I mean...
Well, it is the original... it's the original song that every single Disney musical steals from. That every single, like, longing musical steals from.
That big character moment.
It's the character moment. It's the I want song. I want to be up there where the people are. You know,
I want to see him dancing.
Want to see him dancing. It's the song like Belle in Beauty and the Beast where it's like, oh, I want to do blah, blah, blah. It's I Can Go the Distance.
Yes.
It's the song where it's like, I want, you know, it is the character stating what they want out of life. And Over the Rainbow is the first one of that that's like at least popular enough that everyone starts stealing from because it completely understands what she wants. She lives in Kansas. She wants to find somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. She wants to go somewhere nice and magical, somewhere that's not bumfuck Kansas.
You know, dealing with a crappy neighbor that has an issue with your dog, and you know the dog doesn't like the neighbor, and now she's in trouble because the dog has now bitten the neighbor.
Yes, bit the neighbor because, you know, she can't keep a hold on Toto and blah, blah, blah. And also the neighbor's a bitch. And then, you know, she's going to run away. But, you know,
Mrs. Gulch ends up coming over to the farm and telling her aunt and uncle, hey, your niece's dog bit me. I've, you know, warned you before, you know, keep that dog off my property. And now I have something from the sheriff that says that I can take the dog and destroy the dog.
Yes. I like how they say destroy the dog. Like, you know that thing in, what is it? In, on YouTube, you have to say unalive yourself. In this, it's like, we will destroy the dog, not kill or put down the dog. It's one of those like self-censoring things I find interesting in the movie. I mean,
believe me, destroy, you know, is also
it's not great.
It's not great.
But it makes me think she's going to take Toto and go to Mount Doom and cast him into the fire.
It's always Lord of the Rings with you, isn't it?
Oddly enough, Wizard of Oz, a lot of
similarities,
similarities in Lord of the Rings here, but I digress. But yeah, we get the whole crux of like the plot, right?
You know, Elvira takes the dog, and Dorthy is just distraught as one would be.
Mm-hmm.
And Toto, being the great dog that he is, he escapes Elvira and, you know, runs back home and jumps through the window, and he's like, got him.
Got him. And so Dorothy's gonna take Toto. They're gonna run away and save
she's gonna save Toto's life.
Save Toto's life. Go somewhere over the rainbow and just get away, right? And she runs into the huckster, the Mr. Marvel or whatever,
Professor Marvel.
Professor Marvel, who's a con man, who's a snake oil salesman, but charming as fuck.
I mean, he's got a really cool carriage.
Yes, and he uses his con manning ways to be like, kid, go back home.
Yeah, like, they look into the crystal ball, and he's like, I see, an older woman in your life that loves you, and she's clutching her heart, and she just collapsed. And Dorothy's like, I gotta get home.
Exactly. And it's like, I like that, because he's like, look, kid, I could take your money and like let you go on, but it's like, you're like 10 and you're in the middle, but just go home. It's fine.
Were you the only one during that scene where, she's talking to him, and I'm thinking, don't go down into that ditch to talk to this stranger. And then he's like, I can show you the future. I'm like, don't get into, that carriage. I was just, full on, panic, like, oh my God, this is like, no, don't do that, Dorothy.
They did not teach stranger danger to Dorthy Gale. That was not something she was taught.
And it's like, I know Professor Marvel's not going to do anything to her, but still the anxiety that I had, I'm like, oh my God, Dorothy, no.
The Wizard of Oz is like a propaganda piece to say, don't listen to stranger danger. Sometimes the stranger's a cool talking scarecrow or a cowardly lion or the great Wizard of Oz. It's very funny. But she's running back home, a Twister's coming in, and again, everyone knows the plot of fucking Wizard of Oz.
A Twister.
Once we get into Oz, we'll like speed up a little bit here, guys. But the Twister's coming. Mm-hmm. Everyone's freaking out. They're like, get in the cellar. Dorothy comes home.
Annie M's the only one, Dorothy is not here. I am not getting in the cellar. And all the men are like, oh, no, well, she's on her own. And it's just like, typical.
Uncle Owen is just like, come down here and we'll make another one. And
how are they going to make another niece? It doesn't work that way.
You don't know that. So the tornado comes in. Dorothy comes by while the tornado's going, right? And something flies through the window and knocks her out.
The window itself hits her in the back of the head and knocks her out. This is after she tries to get into the storm cellar. They're not opening because it could be just anything that's hitting those doors.
There's a fucking tornado outside.
There's a tornado, yeah. And she goes back into the house. She's hit by the frame of the window, and she's knocked out.
Yes, which again leads into part of like the production of the movie, because in the books, Dorothy is literally taken to a magical land in a far off place. Mm-hmm. In the film, the writers, producers, everyone were like, because there was a point where they weren't going to have any magical elements in Wizard of Oz. That was like a real production thing they wanted to do, to take out all the fantasy elements. So the Scarecrow was going to be like a guy so poor he can only get paid to, or a guy so dumb he could only get paid to scare crows off. The Tin Man was going to be like a guy who was put in like tin chains or whatever. And like the Cowardly Lion was going to be like an actual circus lion, like a cub circus lion or whatever. The original draft of Wizard of Oz was ridiculous, but
thank God they didn't go with that.
Exactly, but they kind of compromised, because this is the implication that all of Oz is a dream.
Yeah,
that's the implication, right? And I think it's a really good way to go, because it helps make the fantasy of Oz make a little more sense. Mm-hmm. But we get the tornado.
Get the tornado. I mean, great special effects for a movie in 1939.
Yeah, it leans into the dream quality of like what's going on, And I also love how you get to see Gulch on the bike and she turns into the Wicked Witch. How many times has that been parodied in film?
Oh, tons. I mean, I just love that window sequence in general. You see, Elvira turn into the Wicked Witch to the west. You have the two guys in the rowboat. All these things are happening outside the window, and Dorothy's like, "That's weird, but kind of cool. Yeah, let me wave at them."
Yes, it's funny, weird shit like that where you're like, In any other movie, I'd be like, that's fucking, what is this juvenile bullshit? And Wizard of Oz, I'm like, oh, a nice warm cozy blanket. Oh my, get the cocoa out. Oh, this makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Seeing the house spin around. Yeah, I mean, it's just chef's kiss.
Yes. But god damn it, I didn't just punch my microphone. But again, it's really nice. It looks great, but the house eventually crash lands. We get this beautiful black and white.
Well, it's sepia.
This beautiful sepia. It's beautiful. She's walking through the house and she sees, oh, I got to go outside, see
if they're okay.
If they're okay. And she opens the door and what do we see? We see color. That's right. We leave Kansas, and now we are in the beautiful Technicolor of Oz. And I want to say, this is the shit that was, this is what movie magic is.
Yes.
This is fucking cinema. Fucking Andrei Tarkovsky does this whole bit in The Stalker because of The Wizard of Oz. There's something magical about this moment, and I think it's because it's done all in camera and it's practical, right? Because it's an actress that they painted sepia to walk through a sepia room to open the door into the Technicolor soundstage, and it's one, that's just impressive as hell, and it looks seamless. It looks like fucking magic. And then Judy Garland comes out and she's in color now too, and you're like, what the actual fuck? It is so awe-inspiring.
Yes.
This is what that sequence, this fucking 10 minutes.
This is why we love movies.
This is why cinema as an art form exists. I love this shit. All right, it's great. But we're in Oz now, and I love. My favorite part about Oz is that they make no attempts for realism. No. They don't give a fuck about making this look like a real place that people could live in. This is a pure dreamscape fantasy land. It is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah. And it's just, again, just warm and fuzzy, get my cocoa out. But yeah. Oz thoughts, okay, 50-50, wouldn't move there, but I'd visit every once in a while.
I'd visit, definitely. But yeah, I love the sequence so much. It's used for everything. Every Academy Awards, everything that revolves around cinema, you will see Dorothy going to the door, opening it, and revealing Oz. That movie is one of the scenes that is etched in my brain forever. It's just, it means something. Her coming out and, seeing her auburn hair and the blue and white of her dress. It's just this is magic.
Yes. And it's a thing where, again, in what is it, the top 10 shots of cinema
of all time? Yes.
All time, it's on there. It's gotta be. But
but the land of Oz itself, this is Munchkin Land.
Munchkin Land.
In the county of Oz.
Yes. I love that. It's in the county of Oz. It's in Greater Oz, kind of down by the beach. That's where Munchkin Land is, next by Munchkin Beach.
I was impressed by how much of the dialogue and, in the singing I remember.
Yeah, well, okay. That's a thing, because we'll try and speed up for everyone out there a little bit, mostly because the Munchkin sequence, they are fucking hitting 6 songs one after the other. They're trying to get out of Munchkin Land to get to the meat of the story.
Yeah, because you have the big song of the sequence, which is Ding Dong the Witch is Dead.
Yeah,
but it's little songs that are fused in with Ding Dong the Witch is Dead, so it's multiple storylines that are going on at the same time.
I have them here, right? So we open with Come Out Wherever You Are. It really was no miracle.
Yeah.
We thank you very sweetly.
Yes.
Ding Dong the Witch is Dead. And then it keeps going into
Lollipop Guild.
Well, as mayor of Munchkin City, the fucking 3 lines the mayor has, that is a song that is credited on the album.
The Coroner.
As Coroner, I Must Have Air, Lullaby League, the Lollipop Guild, Welcome to Munchkin Land. There are 8 songs.
Yeah.
8 songs. Right? Everybody can see this. 8 songs in what? 8 minutes?
No,
Less
maybe
than
5? 10 minutes.
Maybe 8 songs, 10 minutes.
Because we have Glenda that makes her appearance in this too, so we have to stop and break, and then we have to show that Dorothy's house landed on the Wicked Witch of the East,
yes,
which is freeing the Munchkins from her reign of terror.
Yes, and then the Wicked Witch of the West comes to give her bit of being like,
because that,
am I pretty? Yeah.
well, that is her sister. It's
Yeah.
like, you have killed my sister. My sister is wearing these magical ruby slippers that I need to claim now. And we need to set up, the vendetta between the Wicked Witch of the West and Dorothy, because Glenda puts the slippers onto Dorothy so that the Wicked Witch can't take them.
Yes.
So there's a lot going on in this sequence.
Yes, and it's all done with this big old-fashioned studio musical numbers. There's ballerinas, there's, there's ballerinas, there's dancing,
soldiers.
There's soldiers, there's like this line dancing thing. Like, again, it's fucking magic, right? The magic of the pictures.
Yes.
This is the magic of the moving pictures here.
The stuff that dreams are made
The
of.
stuff that dreams are made of here. But yeah, it's a thing where we get so much information, just pure info dumped here. And there's like a 10-second, 15-second song in between every info dump. And it's almost like, all right, so you're going to get 2 lines of exposition, then I need a 30-second dance number. All right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then we're going to keep doing that. And that's like all of Munchkinland. And it's like, it's not bad. It's almost a thing where it's like they cracked the code to make exposition interesting.
Yeah, I was watching the documentary about the making of this movie, and they had...
the one with Chevy Chase and Carrie Fisher?
No, Angela Lansbury.
Oh, okay. No, that's a joke for I think it's a movie called Over the Rainbow. It's a comedy from the 70s that stars Chevy Chase and Carrie Fisher.
I gotta watch that.
Sure, yeah. But the whole crux of it is, I think Chevy Chase is like a studio executive who's in charge of running the hotel that the Munchkins are living in. And Carrie Fisher is like the script girl. And it's like the two of them. I think that's the plot of it. I mean, I've never seen the movie. I have heard about it, and we'll get into it. Maybe in another episode. We'll do Oz month. The month of Oz.
I think
Return
I'm just good.
to Wicked.
I think I'm just okay with Wizard of Oz.
It'll be a wickedly wonderful month.
That's all I need. It's just Wizard of Oz.
But yeah, sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
You're good.
The documentary.
Yeah, I was watching the documentary, and one of the actors that played one of the Munchkins, I think he was the coroner. He was either the coroner or the mayor.
I think it was the mayor. I think I know what you're talking about.
But he was talking about it took 5 weeks for them to do the studio to do the costumes for everybody, and it was like over 100 actors.
Yes.
So in those 5 weeks, they all learned the choreography, and it's just like there's so much back to back to back to back, and it's impressive. In 5 weeks, you had it down to a T.
Yeah,
because there's just so much going on in that scene.
And here's the thing. I think we should probably mention. So the Munchkin sequence, right? All the actors there, they're not children. They're dwarf actors.
They're little people.
Yes.
They were actors, vaudevillian actors, people that were in the circus.
Yeah, some of them like worked for the studios. Some of them were just because I think how they did it was they did an open call.
Yeah.
For any actor under this height at this age, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because they wanted adults that were like little people, so they had a unique look to them, so people wouldn't look and be like, oh, that's just kids in costumes.
They're using children actors.
Children actors. They wanted like adults, right? And they got, I think, like 100, 200 people. They put them all up in this nice hotel in LA or whatever. They paid them like $125 a piece a week, which was...
for the 30s,
adjusted for inflation, that's like $3,000 a week, right? Which by the way, like, fuck, I'll take $3,000 a week to go and like dance around like a jackass. Fuck yeah,
and be in one of the greatest films of all time.
Yeah, but like that's the thing was there so many of them, and and people are wondering, it's like it took 5 weeks to put costumes on all of them. There was that many people where there was no set costumes for them. They had to make all of them, but there's also a thing where it's like, this person has like the chest of like a grown man, but he's like 4 foot even. So I have to readjust all the lengths of all of these costumes.
Yeah, I mean, that was a thing, you can't go back into wardrobe and, we'll just, take this piece and we'll kind of, vamp it a little bit.
We'll dye it or we'll stitch a little design on it, because that's the thing. Old Hollywood movies, if you watch them, I think we mentioned this when we talked about Blazing Saddles in the long ago.
Yeah.
Where
the long of last year.
The long of last year. Were old studio movies, because Blazing Saddles is making fun of old Hollywood westerns. they would reuse so much shit.
Yeah.
So many costumes were just like that costume Gregory Peck wore in that movie, and now fucking Rock Hudson's wearing it in this movie.
Yeah.
The only difference is, they stitched a different design on the vest, but it's the exact same fucking costume because it was owned by the same studio and they wanted to save money. That's like but in this movie, because all of those actors, none of them had like, Munchkinland wardrobe, so they had to make them all from scratch, but also they couldn't mix and match anything from old stuff.
Well, what was also cool about that was, because I watched the documentary before I watched the movie.
Because you love just ruining the magic.
Like, I haven't seen this movie 100 times,
Ruining the magic of cinema.
But it gave me the chance during that sequence to not only pay attention to their performances, but also the costuming. And it's just, I don't know if it's just something I never registered or I just looked over. On most of their shoes, they have flowers growing up on the top of their shoes, and it's just little details where it's like they have flowers growing from their shoes, or just the coroner, the great kind of cloak that he wears. So it's just like 5 weeks to not only create these costumes, but I mean, they're gorgeous. They're all vibrant and they all look completely unique to one, to whatever the character is or whoever the character is, because again, we have soldiers, we have dancers, ballerinas. There is so many different characters in Munchkinland. Well, that's not, a universal, they're all kind of wearing the same, costume.
They don't look like the Oompa Loompas where they're all in the exact same wardrobe.
Or the witches' guards.
Yes.
Where they're all wearing the exact same thing.
I mean, that even goes into like how vibrant it is, because like Victor Fleming was such a stickler for the color of the film, because again, like this is back in the day where like Technicolor was like real new, like color 1939, like colored pictures were new things.
Yeah.
They spent, I think, a week on the proper color of yellow to use in the film, so that would be the most vibrant and pop the most on screen when they needed it. So like a lot of technical care was done in the making of the movie to make all the costumes and everything look right.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why Dorothy's slippers are red instead of silver.
Silver, yeah.
In the book, they're silver. In the movie, they're ruby red, because they're like, look, if we're paying this much for fucking color film stock, they better pop, goddammit. Make them red, make them vibrant, make them glitter.
And that guy, I don't know if he was the producer, because I think he was the one that was also like, hey, Dorothy should, look like this.
Yeah. George Cukor eventually came up with the final design of Dorothy's look, but the producer guy was the one who wanted like the baby doll and the blonde wig and all that.
Yeah, because I mean, he did a lot of saves, just like with the ruby slippers. I don't think the movie would have been the same with a silver pair of slippers.
No,
I mean, it still would have been striking, but it's just there's something about the ruby slippers. I mean, even till today, there's controversy where they just found an original pair of the slippers that were stolen, and they were in a lake. Someone got, scared and put them in a paint can and threw them in a lake because it was just, we stole, something that's basically priceless.
We stole something that's priceless, and also something we could never sell.
Yeah.
Because, what is it? That's something that happened with...
even though they just sold recently.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Like, it's a thing where it's like, well, because that happens sometimes where people are like, oh man, like, what if somebody stole the Mona Lisa? And it's like, if somebody stole the original Mona Lisa from the Louvre, it would be one of the most useless, valuable things you could own, because you can never sell it. You can't
show it.
You can't show it to anybody, because if you show it to the wrong person, they're going to call the cops. You can't sell it to somebody who's going to like... You can't sell it to anybody legitimate. You have to sell it to anybody who's like already like a nefarious individual, and that nefarious individual is going to be like, well, you can't sell it to anybody else. I'll give you 10 grand for it in cash, and you're going to fucking take it because I'm the only person who will give you money for it. Yeah. And then you were always in the thing where it's like, well, I hope that guy never fucking shows it to like a dumbass, and then because he's going to rat my ass out to save his skin.
Yeah.
On that note, don't steal priceless items, because the reason they're priceless is because you can't sell them like in the black markets. Besides the point, ruby slippers.
Ruby slippers.
Looks beautiful.
Sidebar. Thank you, Debbie Reynolds, because she was, again, one of the main reasons the stuff from this movie survived, because she was an avid collector and preservationist of keeping, old Hollywood stuff alive. Yeah. That is why we have the Academy Museum, which is mostly the stuff that she saved. So thank you, Debbie Reynolds.
Great in Singing in the Rain.
Great in Singing in the Rain, but Academy Museum, we got to actually see a lot of original stuff from The Wizard of Oz when we first went there.
We got to see the camera they used to shoot all this.
Yeah, we got to see the
Super
camera.
cool, by the way. It's also way bigger than you think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we saw the promotional video for the Academy, and they show it, and it's like, oh, cool, that's, you know, one of the cameras that shot the movie. And then you see it in person, and it's like, holy crap, this massive camera shot this larger-than-life movie.
Yeah. But
we got to see the ruby slippers. A pair of them was there. The Wicked Witch of the West's hat. We'll post some of those pictures.
Yeah, because you should still have them hanging around.
Yeah, I might be able to turn them into a reel. So
look out for that.
Yes, look out for that.
But we're in Oz. The Munchkins. We meet the Wicked Witch. Margaret Hamilton is fucking killing it. She lights herself on fire.
This is where she catches fire. Yeah.
And it was like not great. But it is a thing where it all leads up to Down the Yellow Brick Road. Yeah,
it's Glinda saying, you know, I can't take you home. You're going to have to go on this journey on your own to get yourself home.
Yeah.
By talking to the Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz at Emerald City. And so Dorothy decides to...
Start at the beginning.
Follow the Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah.
Follow the Yellow Brick Road. Follow the Yellow Brick Road. And she follows it down, and we're gonna hit all the gentlemen she meets along the road of life, because she first meets the Scarecrow, who, if he only had a brain, would have been great. Zonly. And the gentleman that plays the Scarecrow, what's his name?
I am going back to that right now.
Yeah, because I know he also plays Huck in the Kansas sequences.
Yes. And I love how, you know, she has a relationship with each of them, but I don't know if it's because, you know, she meets Scarecrow first. It's just, you know, they're just...
The reason is because there's a cut scene later. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. He is played by Ray Bolger.
Okay, so Ray Bolger, he saw Wizard of Oz on the stage as a kid. And he fell in love with the Scarecrow as a kid, and he lobbied so hard to play the Scarecrow, because originally he was cast as the Tin Man, and then him and the other actor switched parts, and then that's the actor that got sick playing the fucking Tin Man.
And then there was another actor that you know, worked on stage with Judy Garland. They used to do a lot of dancing sequences together. He was supposed to be the Scarecrow, and I think they switched him over to the Tin Man, and then I don't think he was happy about it, and he ended up leaving the project.
There's a lot of shit that goes on behind the scenes.
There's a lot of, you know, moving parts with, you know, this actor was supposed to be this person, that person, and then we get Ray Bolger, who ends up being the Scarecrow, and I think he's absolutely perfect.
Yes. I mean, we'll just cut to the chase here, because I want to talk about, like, the ensemble that we're working with here. Because after that, we meet the Tin Man, who, if he only had a heart...
Yes, who's played by Jack Haley.
And then after that, we meet... the Cowardly Lion, if he only had the Noive.
Bert
Lahr. Now, these guys, you know, and Judy Garland, you know, and on that note, you know, Margaret Hamilton and everybody else.
Yes.
This is one of the most perfect casts ever, because I cannot imagine anyone else doing better than what's here. Because they wanted W.C. Fields to play Oz, like we mentioned earlier, and that's just not going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
Because no, I can't imagine anyone else playing the Wizard of Oz. No. I can't imagine Shirley Temple playing, you know, Dorothy. I can't imagine anyone else other than these three playing, you know, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion.
Even Glinda, Billy Burke, who had a long career on stage, didn't get into acting until about her 50s, and she was playing like socialites. Also, her husband was Ziegfeld.
Really?
The man that, you know, is portrayed in The Great Ziegfeld and Ziegfeld Follies. That was her husband. So she got into acting really late, and this was like her first breakaway role from like the aristocrat, the lady of the manor. This was, you know, she was Glinda. She was a character, and I guess this was her favorite role she ever played when she became an actress.
Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. It's the thing where it is hard to say this is a perfect cast and not an iconic cast, right? You know, I'm sure...
Why not both?
But no, you know what I mean, right? Yeah. You know, because sometimes you think of it like, oh, fuck it, no one else could play Captain Brody in Jaws than Roy Scheider. That's just not going to happen.
No one could be Rick O'Connell.
No one else could be Rick O'Connell, right? But it's a thing where it's like, well, fuck it. I mean, if you put fucking 1999 era, like, Brad Pitt there, or whoever, maybe, I don't know. But it's a thing where it's like, no, it's like a fucking iconic performance. That's more with, like, the Roy Scheider Jaws performance, where it's just like, it's an iconic performance. I can't imagine anybody else there.
It all really comes back to Jaws.
Yes.
It's always about Jaws.
Your life is Jaws.
Which is, celebrating its 50th anniversary this year.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It is.
50 years. Yeah. But that's the thing, where it's just like, could there be a better, like, thespian for the role?
No.
Maybe? But...
Absolutely not.
Okay, I'm soliloquying here. I'm not arguing with you. But could there be a better actor for the role?
No.
Maybe, but the iconography is too ingrained in culture for there to ever be a meaningful argument against it. I think that's the thing with The Wizard of Oz. Could there be things better in it? Maybe, I don't know, but the iconography and the status it holds within the culture of, like, cinema, there's nothing you could change about this cast to make it more iconic, because it's just so ingrained. Yeah. Which is, like, the whole point of the movie, right? Where it's like, could there be anything better? Fuck, I have no fucking idea. Probably not. It's too perfect as an object to change anything. But again, this cast.
Yes.
It's great.
Phenomenal.
The Tin Man. The Cowardly Lion. Your male ideal. The Cowardly Lion. Looks like
my great-grandfather. Yeah. Acts like my grandfather, with the put him up.
You have the badge.
I do have the badge. I've got my badge of courage right here.
Oh. But yeah, we get
I'll
to
fight you with one hand tied behind my back.
But put him up. But yeah, we have the...
Fight you standing on one foot.
Yes, we have we get to meet our, like, cast of characters, and they're going to go to the Emerald City and everything. And,
speaking, of the cast, their 3 songs are, again, chef's kiss.
They're perfectly choreographed. I love the Scarecrows, If I Only Had a Brain. I think it's because it's the first one, and that's the one I remember the most as a kid.
I think I love the Tin Man's more, because he's just, he's such a romantic. And then we also get our tie-in with Snow White, because, when we get the Wherefore Art Thou Romeo, when he's singing, that's the voice actress that voiced Snow White the previous year.
Oh, that's nice.
So we get a tie-in, an inspiration of one movie to another, and a favor.
It is so funny to me how much Wizard of Oz is like, we gotta do what Snow White did. And I've seen Snow White, and Snow White is another movie that is, like, kind of touched by, like, the movie gods, but it's also a thing where I'm like,
I love Snow White.
Yeah, but I here's the thing. Snow White isn't a movie that I can watch as an adult and still, like, I don't fall in love with Snow White. I appreciate it as, like, a good piece of, like, animation and work and all this other stuff, but I don't, like, I don't fall in love with Snow White. I fall in love with Wizard of Oz. It's very interesting how, like, the Wizard of Oz kind of just, we're going to do the Snow White thing, and just kind of outgrows it, like, so quickly. And like, the cultural consciousness.
And I mean, we're getting a remake of Snow White that's coming out this year.
Yeah. It was supposed to come out, like, what, 3 years ago? 2 years ago?
I think it was supposed to come out last year, but there were so many issues with how much they changed the story. And I've seen the trailers now, and I'm like, okay, this looks more like, the original film, but it's like, we didn't really need to make it again. It's, fine, just leave it, the original 1938 film. It's perfect.
We could get into a very long discussion on remakes, reboots, sequels, resequels, just in the general vein of Wizard of Oz.
And that's why I mention it, because, we're kind of repeating history again, where we have a new version of The Wizard of Oz that has just come out, Wicked.
Wicked, yeah.
Part 2, I believe, is coming out this fall. So it's like we're kind of, going back to the 30s, where, it's like, okay, Snow White was, I guess, supposed to come out first, the remake, and then Wicked, and then part 2. So it's like, history's kind of repeating itself. And it's like, I understand Wicked's a different, story. It's from the same vein as The Wizard of Oz.
I guess the same world.
It's the same world. I guess there's Easter eggs to the original film within that film. But yeah, we'll continue to talk about The Wizard of Oz.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Wicked? Because I feel like, okay, on the note, I guess, a sidebar here. Wizard of Oz is like one of the most iconic films of all time.
Yes.
But it's not a thing where they won't like remake it or
hope
go back
they
to the
don't.
world. Well, I say that because they've done like The Wiz, they've done Return to Oz, they've done TV shows, they've done like movies about the making of the movie.
But they've never remade this film. Like going, back and, okay, we're going to do everything with a new cast and new technology and, hope for the best.
Yeah, they've never just straight up said we are going to remake The Wizard of Oz. They made sequels or tie-ins or prequels. Oz the Great and Powerful was one of Raimi's last film for like 10 years until he did in the Multiverse of Madness. But I'm curious because Wicked, I feel like is like this generation before us, like cultural context of the Wizard of Oz now.
Yeah.
Because like the songs are super popular. It was on Broadway forever. Do you like Wicked? Because I know you're very anti-touching of like the great works. Like you are sequels to great movies that don't need them. You're very anti-reboots and remakes. But I feel like where does Wicked sit? Because it's in a funny place for it. Because it's like a prequel, and it's kind of like its own thing. Because it's not really a Frank L. Baum story. I'm curious.
I mean, I love musicals. Obviously,
we're doing Musical March.
But before that, I love musicals. It's never appealed to me. I remember how big it was in like the early 2000s. I don't remember when it hit Broadway, but I remember, seeing billboards because it finally moved from Broadway to Pantages here in LA. It just never did anything for me. I don't know if it was because I have such a deep love for The Wizard of Oz that I didn't really need a spin-off. I mean, I never watched the James Franco, what was it, Oz or...
Oz the Great and Powerful.
The Great and Powerful. It's like, there's been so many spin-offs. I do love that song from The Wiz. It's the one with Michael Jackson, Diana Ross when they're going down.
Go on down the road.
Going down. I love that song. I need to watch The Wiz. I need to,
It is funny because I'm gonna out my sister on this one. My sister probably saw The Wiz more than the original Wizard of Oz by a magnitude of 100 to 1.
That's impressive.
I watched a lot of The Wiz as a kid to the point I thought The Wizard of Oz, when I first saw it, was the sequel to The Wiz.
No.
I watched a lot of The Wiz as a kid. All right, that one I can still probably hum a few tunes from.
Yeah. But no, it's not a thing where I was like, ooh, this isn't Wizard of Oz. I'm never gonna watch Wicked. It was just more. It didn't really do anything for me. I've heard some of the songs from Wicked, and they're very catchy.
Defying Gravity is like the cultural touchstone song.
Currently popular. And that one's a great song, but it never really did anything for me.
Didn't deserve its like 10 Oscar nominations.
I'm just saying, the fact that The Wizard of Oz only got 2 Oscars, that is a shame. But I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit later because man, was 1939 a stacked year.
Stacked fucking year.
But I know that Wicked's coming out onto Peacock in a few weeks, so I might watch it. See what it's all about now that the hype's kind of
died down
a little bit because it's going to ramp back up this fall when part 2 comes out. But I hear that, it snaps your soul in half, so we'll see.
Boo loves getting her soul snapped in half at the movies.
So much.
But yeah, so that side tangent for Wicked. But back to like The Wizard of Oz, because we have our cast of characters, they're on their way to the Emerald City, and we get... They're going through the poppy fields, and the Wicked Witch... Poppies. Yes, the Wicked Witch is like, I'm going to go poison these bitches. Let me poison with the poppies.
She's trying to stop Dorothy so she could get the slippers. And it's like, Dorothy keeps meeting people, and people keep helping her. And that's even, a line the Wicked Witch. She's like, why is everyone helping this girl? And it's just like, I love to see the Wicked Witch just frustrated. She's like, I'm hoping, for the worst. She doesn't know where she's going. She's never been here.
Why do people like Dorothy? Why do people like this bitch?
Even the trees are fighting with her. I mean, I love the trees.
Yes, where they're throwing the apples at her.
And they're trying to throw hands with her, Wouldn't you be mad if someone was picking stuff off of you? And she's like, you got a point, scary tree that's talking to me, but, you got a point. But
what is it? Those trees actually were an inspiration for why they built like the theme park in South Carolina. Because out in one of the Carolinas, there's a theme park called the Land of Oz.
mhm,
And the guy who made it was like, yeah, I saw a tree and it looked just like the tree from Wizard of Oz. I'm gonna build a theme park here.
makes sense.
Yes. It's still technically open, but it's only open in like the fall, so you can go to the Wizard of Oz experience in Carolina. # not sponsored.
And then in Kansas, they have the Wizard of Oz Museum.
Oh, really?
And they have like, original pieces. I think they have the carriage that she rides in Emerald City.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
It's either the Emerald City carriage or it's the one in Munchkin Land. But, they have, priceless things. That's where the ruby slippers were stolen from. Someone broke into the museum and took those slippers.
I know the one in Carolina, somebody started a fire and then stole one of Dorothy's original dresses from there and like some other stuff. Because there were props there that were loaned from the Debbie Reynolds museum.
Collection, yeah.
So there's some stuff that's been stolen and lost or what have you. But I digress. We're on their way. They go to the poppy fields.
And, going alongside that, do you remember that show in the mid-2000s? It was the Hollywood, Collectors. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring this up, right? Because I remember this show. It was like one of those reality shows
I
where...
love that show.
It was like one of those shows that was almost like tailor-made for like...
Us?
Yes, like old movie nerds. Where it was this guy and his team, and they were literally just on the hunt for like old Hollywood memorabilia.
Like when they found Bruce, one of the last Bruce molds, and it was in a tree in a junkyard.
Yes.
And that is now the Bruce. I'm pretty sure that is the Bruce that hangs in the Academy Museum.
Yeah, the other one is I think it was they found the original costumes for the cast of Gilligan's Island because I believe the actress that played Marianne just threw them in a box when the show ended and threw them in her garage. She just had them in the back of her garage for
Bless her, because if she didn't take them,
oh yeah, they'd be gone.
They'd be gone. They would have been, recycled into other wardrobes for other shows.
Yeah.
But the leader of this show, I can't remember his name. I want to call him something, and it's not the right name. His quest in life was to find the Yellow Brick Road.
Yes, because the Yellow Brick Road was a real thing that was built for the film.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't made out of like brick. It was made out of
plywood.
It was like plywood molding or whatever. And the story goes, well, they built this in the studio and it was like, it's cheaper to just lay another like layer of wood over it and we'll just like go from there.
Yeah.
So he always wanted to tear up the fucking floor of MGM's like studio to find the Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah.
But MGM's like, you're not going to fucking tear up the floor of our fucking studio.
That's been redone,
Countless
hundreds,
times.
thousands of times. That floor has just been, resurfaced for whatever reason. But that was, I remember his big, thing, his crusade was, I want to find the Yellow Brick Road. It has to be under all these layers that they've, put for the studio.
Beat the shit out of the mic.
I'm just so mad. I'm like, come on, they couldn't have let him tear up the studio just a little bit. But yeah, I love that show. I loved, his quest to find the Yellow Brick Road, and he was on the documentary when they retrieved the ruby slippers. I think in the last 2 years when they were found in the paint bucket.
It doesn't surprise me because, in movie history land, Wizard of Oz is like one of those movies where everyone kind of wants a piece of it.
Yeah.
Because it's, again, one of the most iconic films of all time. Once we get to like the release and everything like that, we'll talk about how deep this movie rolls. But it's a thing where, any piece of the costuming, it's a piece of movie history, but it's not just movie history. It's a piece of movie history that everyone can attach themselves to.
Yeah.
But again, I digress. We get to the poppy fields.
Yes.
The reason I want to talk about this so much is because goddamn old Hollywood was dangerous. Because we mentioned earlier, this poppy sequence, they didn't use fake snow because this is 1939 and they're like, asbestos is like Cracker Jacks. You can eat it. It's cheap. So they just are pouring asbestos over everyone. And in my head, I'm like, oh, well, I remember people saying that, and it wasn't like a lot of asbestos. It was like a little, and it's like, oh no, that is so caked on.
Yeah.
And I see the Cowardly Lion get up, and it's just all over his mane. I'm like, Oh God, I don't want to look up how these people died. There's probably a lot of cancer. Oh no.
I mean, Judy Garland, it's all in her hair. Toto's completely covered because they're laying on the ground in the asbestos.
And they're just pouring it all over
Yeah,
them.
because the crux of that scene is to go back to, the Wicked Witch she keeps meeting people and they keep helping her.
Yes.
She finally gets to Emerald City and the witch is like, great. She's going to go to the wizard who's going to be able to help her and hold on to the slippers. I have to slow them down by poisoning the field, and I guess poppies has, something that
poppies are what you would synthesize.
Like opioids?
Yeah, poppy is what you would synthesize heroin and morphine out of. Yeah, poppies are used to like synthesize opiates and high level narcotics to like knock you to fuck out. But I just want to point this out that yes, it's the poppy fields and it's asbestos and it's horrible, and god damn it, I really hate the fact we live in a world we can't use asbestos as snow anymore because it looks goddamn magical.
It does, but no, I would not want to be in that or near that for 2 seconds.
It looks like magic.
Let alone how long it must have taken to just cover them in snow.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand it's not safe. I understand it's bad. My dad had to rip asbestos out of hospitals in a previous life. But it looks fucking magical.
Oh, yeah, it looks beautiful. And
God.
it's also...
Sometimes the best things in life are just bad for you.
Don't we know it? But it's also creative on the filmmaker's part because, one way to slow them down, poppies. I wouldn't think that. I wouldn't think, flowers that are, going to make them basically pass out. And it works because
that goes back to Homer's The Odyssey even.
Yeah.
But,
it works on her, the Cowardly Lion, and Toto because they're all, living things, and Tin Man and the Scarecrow, they're not. They've just been made. So it's just, you
I
have
love
this
that
struggle.
attention to detail.
I love that struggle. And then I love that Glenda's like, oh, okay, they're passed out from this. Let me make it snow. The snow's going to, kind of kill the smell of the poppies, and it's going to wake them up. It's
probably kill them too, but whatever.
Just a little bit.
A little kill.
But it's like, I love those little attention to detail moments where it's like, it's the two witches that are battling it out. And it's like, all right, well, you put them to sleep with the flowers. I'm going to naturally wake them up with the snow. And it's just like, I would never have thought of that in 100 years.
Little kid minds would have thought of it. Like,
I would have, put a moat, something that they, can't, cross to get over to Emerald City. And like, not, flowers.
But yes, we get the poppy sequence, and then
we get to Emerald City. We
get to M City on HBO with, Oz.
Not to be mistaken with Suplex City.
Suplex City. They get to the prison. Schillinger's there. Adebisi's there. Don't watch the TV show Oz, by the way. It is...
The Wizard of Oz?
It's not The Wizard of Oz, and it's very, very depressing. It is one of the most depressing shows I think I've ever seen in my life. It's bad. But they make to the Emerald City, and it is, just pure magic. You get the horses. They're painted.
You get a horse of a different color.
You get to see the wizard playing every single person they interact with. You get all the, fun stuff. They're getting pampered. Emerald City just looks like another obvious, they're just on a studio soundstage. It doesn't look like real in any way, but you're like, fucking, let's go. I fucking love this shit. God damn it. I miss old studio soundstage movies. It's probably why I like Bob Fosse musicals.
I mean, did you love when the Wicked Witch took to the sky and, put Surrender Dorothy?
Yes.
In skywriting?
Yes, I love that shit.
Did you love that at the very beginning? It says sir, and I'm like, Dean's gonna be VPR.
Again, runs deep.
It does run deep.
All right, and we're back. Sorry, I had to run off to Oz real quick and do some stuff. So yeah, but we're in Oz.
Yes, we're in Oz. Our group, want to talk to the wizard, and the people of Oz are like, well, you can't talk to him like that. You guys got to get cleaned up first. And it's like, we've been walking for days, dealing with the witch, getting attacked by trees, rolling around in asbestos.
This is also where we get the song "The Merry Old Land of Oz,"
yes.
Another musical number, because again, musical march.
Yes.
But just to prefix this, there's musical numbers in it, and they're spaced out really long. Because usually when we do musicals, it's like, musical number, 2 minutes, musical number, 3 minutes, musical number. This one's like musical number, fucking 15, 20. We'll just riot it out with some plot. Okay, throw a musical number in here.
Some plot or just, some scoring. because the score, I believe, did win an Oscar.
Score and song won.
Yeah. So it's like, we have...
We'll make you guess what song won the Oscar.
Which one could it be? But it's, we do have the song while they're, getting pampered in Oz. And then we have the Cowardly Lion that has his moment, because he has his own song. All three of our, characters that we meet along the way, they have their song and they're explaining why they want to go meet the wizard.
And the Cowardly Lion's the only one that has two.
He has his breakout song, If I Were King of the Forest, which is an awesome song. I love that sequence.
You love everything about this movie.
I love everything about this movie, but I love that they play in with all the stuff that's there at Oz. They use one of the carpets basically, as his cape, and the Tin Man breaks one of the potted plants to give him his crown, to make his crown, and it's just him saying once he gets his courage, what kind of king he's gonna be, and the mountains are gonna kneel before him, but it's still him being a dork.
Yeah.
And oh, nuts. And it's just like, I love these characters.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, again, and then they get to meet the wizard, right?
Which,
and again,
great hallway.
Yeah, the wizard is one of those. The meeting the wizard sequence is one of those iconic moments. Big fire and flame and the projection and all this other stuff, and I love it because it's real fucking fire in some real building, and there's real smoke, and that's like a fucking real projection on some fucking mat thing. It's like the thing where it's like, fuck, they don't make movies like this anymore. No. They don't make movies like they used to, god damn it, where they're just like, let's just light fucking 20-foot flames inside of a soundstage with a bunch of flammable shit.
Because
fuck it, YOLO.
What other option do we have?
None.
It's like we have to create this, to visually get what we have in our minds. We can't, just do computers like now where it's like, oh yeah, I could totally, CGI use some fire and, this big ominous, face in the sky. It's like, no, we have to, make this from scratch.
Yeah. It's the thing where, what is it? With the advent of CGI and everything in your brain you can put on screen. But there's also a thing where it's like, yeah, but the magic of cinema was capturing shit that wasn't in your head and just kind of happenstancing on it. It's like in Evil Dead when Ash throws the dirt on there and the dirt falls perfectly on the camera lens to frame Ash.
Yeah.
Literally perfectly in the top thing as he's shoveling this stuff, and you're like, oh my god, that's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, he must have done that 40 fucking times to get that framing perfect in that right angle. And it's like, no, that was totally on accident. We had one take of that, and we didn't know what it looked like until we printed it fucking 2 weeks later back in Civilization.
Yeah.
The magic of the pictures. The magic of the moving pictures here. But Oz tells them, I will send you home if you can get me the broom of the Wicked Witch, right?
Yeah, you have to bring me her broom.
Because fuck that bitch.
Yeah, so, they set off to go do this. Dorothy is taken by the flying monkeys, and the three are left alone. What do? We got to rescue Dorothy, and Toto's able to escape the witch's palace lair. She's got a sweet setup in the mountains.
She do.
So it's them that are basically, no, we need to band together, come up with a plan. We need to use our brains, use our heart, and, have the courage to go rescue our friend that's been taken. And also get the broomstick so that we can, send her back home.
Yeah. And I love this section of the movie because very early we'll talk about the nightmare fuel of this film. When they leave Oz and they're going to the Wicked Witch's castle, this shit is Spook City. It is spooky. It looks like Halloween Town. There's spooky owls and crows and flying monkeys.
Again, it's like Snow White when she goes through the dark forest.
Exactly. And I think that's gotta be what they're riffing on here, right? And I love the castle because the castle looks like fucking Dracula's castle. And it's a thing where they're going hard in the paint of spooky part of the movie, right?
Yeah.
And I thought about this, and you comment on this if I'm wrong. Do all great kids movies scare you at some point? When you're watching them as a kid? Because I'm thinking about Pinocchio, right?
Yeah.
Pinocchio, ain't no strings on me, and it's and it's a very like light, fun kids movie, and then you get to the donkey transformation.
You go to Pleasure Island, and it's all the terrible things that are happening there because these kids aren't listening to their parents.
Yeah, and it's horrifying.
Yeah.
Or like, Iron Giant, for me, watch it a bunch as a kid, and then it gets to the part where it's just like, oh my god, like Hogarth is wandering around in the woods and there's this giant fucking monster that's gonna attack him. Oh, that's spooky, right? And he's watching monster movies, and it's like,
or it's like E.T., where Elliot and E.T. get lost in the woods, and E.T. ends up in the riverbed, and it's just like
traumatizing.
Yes.
And yeah, and like we can go on and on about this, or like in Toy Story when Sid gets attacked by all the fucking toys, and you're like, oh, this is a horror movie scene.
He deserved that.
He did deserve that. But that's the thing. Do all great kids movies have a moment that is supposed to scare you as a kid?
Yeah, because they're cautionary tales.
Okay. You think it's intentional?
Yeah.
Okay. As cautionary tales? Are all kids movies cautionary tales, or are you talking about this more specifically?
I mean, if they're not cautionary tales, then why are they trying to scare us? Just for the fun of it?
Maybe. Adults are cruel, Yeah. But yeah, well, I think it is interesting that it shows up a lot in very iconic children's films. Snow White, the forest and all that stuff. Yeah. Pinocchio, like Cinderella with the Maleficent attack. It's interesting that even the Wizard of Oz.
Those are two separate movies. That's Aurora. Aurora's in Sleeping Beauty with Maleficent. And Cinderella, it's the evil, wicked stepmother.
That's right, yeah. But again, it's a thing where in all these like movies, there's always like, here's the part we're gonna like try and traumatize the kids. All right, when they find E.T. in the riverbed, we're gonna traumatize them because they're finding a dead fucking body, kids.
Yeah.
But it's like the thing where it's like, I wonder if it's like because kids movies need to run the gambit of emotions so that the kids can feel like these happy pleasure things, happy, fun, joy, sugar, and sweet, but also like life's a little scary.
Yeah,
and like the whole thing of like, it's scary, but the heroes come out on the other side, right? They always like triumph.
Yeah, and I think in this movie, you have to face the Wicked Witch because it has been fairly easy. She's been meeting people along the way that have similar goals to her. And it has been going fairly well. This is,
I would be saying she's shooting buckets the whole movie.
Yeah. And, this is the ultimate test. This is, you need to retrieve something from me so that I could help you get home. But you're going to have to face one of your greatest fears here, which is, coming face to face with the Wicked Witch.
In the context of this not being the dream world, it's facing your shitty neighbor who's trying to steal your dog.
Yeah, you're facing your fears. She's facing her neighbor. The Cowardly Lion is facing fear in general. The Tin Man is, facing, my heart, I love Dorothy, so I need to follow my heart to help save her. And the Scarecrow is, we need to use our brains collectively to devise a plan to rescue our friend. Well,
that's the thing. Like the Cowardly Lion, he's the only one I want to like clear up, because the Cowardly Lion isn't like, he's like, oh, well, I have to like face fear itself. It's the whole thing that I think they kind of talk about later is like courage.
Yeah.
Courage isn't about blindly facing the dangerous things. It's being scared and overcoming it.
And that's what we get in that scene. We all see them, because he goes, I'm scared, but I will fight every last one of those soldiers
to save Dorothy. And it's the thing where it's like, those are great lessons to teach kids, where it's just like, if you're not smart, like, no, you can be smart. You just have to like put your mind to it. And you have to learn something. Oh, if you don't feel like you're loved or loving enough, it's not about who you love. It's about like how many people love you. And it's like, being brave isn't about facing your fears and not feeling afraid. It's about being afraid and overcoming them. And it's like, fucking Christ. All right. Yeah. Great morals all around, kids. Fucking Wizard of Oz. Like, we're going to do all the children's storytelling shit in one movie. And then every other movie's going to riff off of it for the next 100 years. But they fight, they get to the Wicked Witch, right?
Her castle.
Her castle. We get the Deus Ex bucket of water.
Oh,
Yes, the Simpsons references. But they meet the Wicked Witch. They have Dorothy. The Wicked Witch can't get the ruby slippers off while Dorothy's alive because Glinda has some magic on that. But the three manage to break in. They're trying to escape with Dorothy, and they're being chased. And I love the chase sequence. It's like fucking Adventures of Robin Hood. There's like the fucking chandeliers coming down, and there's all the henchmen and the flying
then
monkeys.
they pulled the Scream thing where they go running up the stairs instead of out the building.
Exactly. Again, Wizard of Oz's influence on cinema. But
they come face to face. They're all trapped in one room. There's soldiers. There's the Wicked Witch, and then she sets the Scarecrow on fire because she knows that that's his biggest fear. And Dorothy, being Dorothy, I'm gonna put out the flames.
This part of the movie, no setup, no mention of it,
no lore,
no more. Just like she throws water on the Scarecrow's arm to put it out, but it also splashes on the Wicked Witch, and the Wicked Witch is like, "No, my fatal weakness! What a world!
What a world!
I'm melting." And I'm like, okay. In any other movie, right? In any other piece of the cinematic arts, there would be a studio note being like, "Wait, you're gonna kill her by throwing water on her? Okay, you need to put that in like the first act. You need to put that like earlier on. Do some setup to say that she can't touch water." Because this just comes out of fucking nowhere. And because...
Kind of like the house that came out of nowhere and took out her sister?
Exactly. The Deus Ex Machina here. I'm like, in any other movie, I would be like, that's some fucking bullshit. But this is touched by the movie gods, and I am like...
Makes sense.
Fucking roll. I'm here on Pixie Sticks and Joy. Just fucking roll it, bitches. Let's go.
And again, it's another great effect.
Yeah, because she's just,
melting
sinking
and
into a trap door. Is that what it is?
I believe so, but I mean, it's just a great effect all around because I mean, she's melting. I'm melting. I can't do it as good as as Margaret can, but she's melting, and it's like no. She's literally melting into the ground. And it's just like, did I just watch that with my own eyes? Like, this is amazing.
It's a really cool effect, and it's simple as hell. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just want to keep pointing it out, where it's just like, this movie has some holes in it, big ones. And that's the one that always I come back to. It's just like, what the hell? But
I'm gonna have to do your favorite thing. I haven't done it in a while.
Motherfucker. Yeah.
Dean, it's just a movie.
Yeah, I know.
We don't need, the guidebook. That I don't think that was a deleted song, And by the way, if you want to take out the Wicked Witch of the West, here's all the ways that you can do it.
Yeah, it's just a fucking movie.
It's just a movie.
It's just a fucking movie.
And it's easy. It's an easy way to take her out. She set her friend on fire. She's putting said friend out of fire. And, splashes water. Didn't know that was a weakness of the witch.
I didn't know her weakness was agua. But they defeat the Wicked Witch.
They do. And the soldiers are so happy to be free of the Wicked Witch.
I love that, where they're just like, oh, you have killed the Wicked Witch. Oh, fucking thank God.
You.
Oh, she was awful. And everyone's just cool with it. They go back to the Wizard of Oz.
I mean, that's, the one thing that they ask her, because they're like, hail Dorothy, she's, our new queen or whatever. But she's like, no, I'm good, but do you mind if I take the broom? And they're like, anything for you.
They take the broom to the wonderful Wizard of Oz, and this is where we get like the iconic one where he's like, I will not send you away. Blah, blah,
I'll do it tomorrow.
I'll do it tomorrow. Leave me alone. And then Toto opens up the curtain, and
again, another practical, scene. Yeah, a dog would, go wander over there and then get caught on the curtain and, pull the curtains around. Binks does that all the time. I'm in the kitchen trying to cook something and she's behind the curtains and all you see is the curtains going back and forth, and it's just like, why is the window watching me cook? Oh no, it's the cat, that's, taking the curtains with her. But it's, perfect scene to reveal that the wizard is just a man.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Pay no attention.
Great line. Great reading. But we get the reveal that, again, no one needs the plot of Wizard of Oz explained to him. Everyone knows. But we get the reveal that, Oz is just a con man. He's just this guy who's convinced everyone that he's a great wizard. And he's like, I'm not really a great wizard. I dabbled in college kind of thing.
And he's like, I was at the World's Fair and I couldn't stop the balloon that I was in and I ended up here. And I've just, kind of been the man that fell from the sky and people thought I was a wizard. So I rolled with it.
I just kind of kept, saying yes to things and no one had called me on it. And now I'm their king. I'm sorry. But
sounds like something you would do.
Exactly. But that they get that and they kind of, and the wizard is like, look, here's, they, like I said a minute ago, gives everybody the moral lessons.
He goes into his bag of tricks and, pulls out a degree, for the Scarecrow for a thinkology. Mm-hmm. He gives, the Tin Man a heart, which is, a heart, in a clock in the shape of a heart that ticks.
It's a ticker.
And then, you get the badge of courage for, having courage, so you feel brave all the time. And then that's when we get the appearance of Glenda.
Yes.
Who, she was like, you could have go home at any time.
Yeah.
These slippers have the ability to take you home. You needed to go through this, journey. This journey inside to, figure out who you are and basically to grow up.
And
you can't run away from your problems. You have to face them head on.
You have to face your fears. Mm-hmm. And she tells him, just click your heels together and say, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. But you have to say
goodbye to your friends that you made along the way.
Yes. And this gets into something that's interesting, right? Because she says goodbye to the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and then the Scarecrow. She's like, I'll miss you most of all. And the reason that's said is because there's supposed to be an epilogue scene to the film. Like, this is supposed to happen after the whole, like, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there. Where Dorothy and Huck, he was going to go off to like college or something like that. He was going to go off. And Dorothy he was like, hey, Dorothy, maybe I'm going to go off, but remember to write me or something like that. Because there was supposed to be an implication that there was going to be like a romantic relationship for like the next movie that they were going to make. But again, the movie didn't do well financially, so they never made a sequel. But it
also works because, Huck is a grown man.
That's the reason they cut it, because in context, they were like, well, fucking Judy Garland's 16. The guy playing Huck is like, what, 21 or 20-something? So it was like, oh, it'll work out. And then they thought about it for like 30 seconds. I think they thought about it when they were doing like the rewrites, and they kind of started thinking about it. It's just like, no, fucking guys, like, Dorothy's supposed to be like 10, and Huck's like a fucking like hand of a farm. He's like in his 20s, maybe even his like late 20s or like 30s. And I think, like, let's just ex-nay that. And they're like, yeah, we'll ex-nay that.
I'd have to do more research into that, because watching this and then watching, the documentaries and reading about it, I never gauged her as being like a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old. I always felt like she was, 15, 16,
a like very naive, like 15, 16.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
like,
she's
farm girl in the middle of Kansas.
Yeah, that's why I was just like, okay, she's a teenager and she's, doing what teenagers do. I'm going to run away from home because I have this problem that feels like it's, the size of the world. So, if they had gone that route, I probably wouldn't have thought too much of it, because I always assumed that she was a teenager in this movie.
See, the only reason I'm saying she's like 10 is because I think in the book she is, and it's ambiguous her age in this, because she acts young.
But even in the making, they talk, she's a child. She's this child that's brought to Oz, and it's like, okay, I see where you're trying to go, but she doesn't look like a child. She looks like a teenager. And I think if you rolled with that, that would have worked more for your story. And then it's like, oh yeah, well, she could have, gotten older by the time maybe he came back from college, and, if they reunited, that would make a little bit more sense. But
there's a reason that scene was never shot.
Yeah.
It was written on one of the original drafts of the script, and they never shot it. I think it was excised before much of too much filming was done, probably because they were like, this doesn't really like vibe with the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
we would have to set up a whole different like romantic thing. But that's like the reason why she's like, and I think I'll miss you most of all, Scarecrow, was because there's supposed to be an implication that Huck was supposed to be like a romantic interest for Dorothy, that they just excised because they're like, we don't need a romantic interest in this movie.
Because even if you go back to the beginning of Kansas, where she comes back to the farm after dealing with Mrs. Gulch, she talks more to Zeke, who's, the Cowardly Lion.
Yeah.
She talks more to him in that sequence than she does to Huck.
Again, there's a reason why they cut it.
Yeah, so it's like, it didn't need it. And again, this movie didn't need a sequel. So I think it's perfect that they kind of just kept it ambiguous, with, okay, maybe I'll miss you most of all because I met you first. We've been on this journey a lot longer than Tin Man and Lion. We started this journey together.
Yeah.
So it's like, so that would make sense.
But on that note, we are actually going back to Kansas. Back to Kansas, everyone.
We're clicking our heels right now.
No place like home, no place like home, and we're out of Technicolor.
Yes.
But yeah.
We're back into sepia.
And we get like the fucking iconic ending of The Wizard of Oz, which is, oh, I was in this wonderful place, but it was real, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there.
And then Professor Marvel
and Batman was there.
Just happens to be walking by the window. Hey, you made it home. Just like, how small is this town?
It's Kansas, so it's not very small, but there's just not a lot of people there.
And then, is he going from farm to farm, to check and see if she made it home safely?
That's what he said.
That's why it's like,
make sure she made it home.
Well, good on, Professor Marvel.
See, sometimes you should go talk to the weird guys on the riverbed that are hanging out in their little carts. Sometimes they bring you magic. This movie is so anti-stranger danger, it's insane. This movie has probably ruined many child's life. I digress. But yeah, The Wizard of Oz.
I guess that was a reason why they took the Wizard of Oz experience out of the MGM hotel in Vegas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was an issue where it was like, maybe kids shouldn't be hanging around in a casino.
Okay, that makes so much sense.
So it only lasted from 93 to 96. So I think I saw it like 95, like the last, full year that it was there. But I was just like, oh, I even found a YouTube video. Someone took like a home video of the walk. So I watched a little bit of it. So I'll send it to you afterwards.
You got hit with that nostalgia so
hard. I was
hard.
just like, I could even smell the hotel. I'm like, this is so weird.
I could smell the $5 lobster and the sound of debt accumulating around me. It was
95, so it was probably like 90-cent lobster. Inflation, now it's $5.
But yeah, that's the Wizard of Oz, more or less.
And
right?
we get the final moral of the story, after the, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there.
It's that Sigmund Freud is right, and the super ego is inhabiting everything around it and recontextualizing it in your dream world, because this is all a dream.
Or, the moral of the story is there's no place like home. And Dorothy needed
that too.
Dorothy needed to go on this journey to see that I can't run away from my problems. I really do love my home and the people that inhabit my home.
Yes, I need to work through the problems in front of me instead of running away from them. We don't get an answer to what happens to Gulch and what'll go on with Toto. I imagine Dorothy kills that bitch. Drowns her ass in the river.
Or, maybe a house landed on her. It was a tornado. The house began to switch.
But
the roof to pitch.
But that is The Wizard of Oz. Yes. And now, like, The Wizard of Oz, iconic film. Oh my God, it's great. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. It makes you feel warm and happy inside. Gets released in 1939. Bombs.
Yeah.
Bombs.
I mean, not like terribly, like some movies where it's like it was given no chance. There was a decent amount of a fan following with this movie. It just didn't do as well as other films that were coming out at the time.
Yes, because Wizard of Oz cost $2.8 million at the time, which was one of the most expensive films of all time, except for another movie that came out that year. We'll talk about it in a second. And when it gets released, it makes like $3.5 million. Mm-hmm. Which is like, okay, maybe more than its budget, but it didn't make a lot more. And everyone's like, okay, it's a failure. We'll scrap The Wizard of Oz because it's not big. But years later, in like the 50s, when TV comes out, they're like, well, Wizard of Oz is cheap.
1956.
They're like, Wizard of Oz is a movie we can get cheap rights to. We'll put it on. And this movie played on TV fucking every month, every year, whatever, for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. This movie, by note of the Library of Congress, they've estimated it is the most watched film of all time because it played the most on TV than any other film in history, to the point that I think it got to the point where it became like an event. Like, I think every Thanksgiving they would show it. It's kind of like the Ten Commandments get showed every Easter, and like Christmas Story gets showed every Christmas Eve.
And Christmas Story, they have the Wizard of Oz in it.
They do. Yeah, they make reference to that. Because, again, like, Wizard of Oz is supposed to take place in, like, 1940 something.
And then I believe Christmas Story is also MGM.
I believe so.
So it would make sense, you know, to have...
They'd be able to use those. And
I mean, the characters are pretty good looking in A Christmas Story. They look, you know, the costuming is great. And it's just like, how are they able to do that? MGM. They use the
OGs. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, this movie becomes, on release, everybody's whatever. But everyone who sees it loves it.
Yeah.
It's a movie that plays on TV forever. It has the same model as, like, Disney films, where it's just like every 5 years we're going to have it run in theaters, because back in the 30s and 40s, there's no, like, TV, right? So in the 30s and 40s, they're just like, we're just every couple of years we're going to put it back in the theaters, we're going to make some more money, and new generations of kids are going to see it. Right? And it's also like World War II is like right on the horizon, so
that was the next year.
Yeah, literally the next year. So yeah, like, The Wizard of Oz kind of had a hard hand to follow, and also because of the other films that released that year. Now let's talk about the Oscars. Okay. This movie is nominated for five Oscars, right? It gets its Best Picture, Best Song, Best Score, a few other ones. But Judy Garland does win, like, a juvenile Oscar thing.
It was for her work in Babes in Arms and Wizard of Oz. It was, you know, like...
It's kind of like an honorary Oscar.
Yeah,
deal.
It's like you went above and beyond this year, and you're a juvenile actor. You're not, you know, a full-fledged adult actor. And it's like you're already pulling in, you know, roles like this.
You are already a moneymaker at, like, this age. So here's an award. And it was the
only Oscar she ever won, which is a travesty.
It's weird. It's definitely weird, because I would imagine she would have been nominated more, but
she probably was, but I don't think she ever, you know, won more than just that first one.
Yeah, but, you know, I digress. But it's nominated for this. It wins Best Score and Best Original Song, because Somewhere Over the Rainbow is a stone cold fucking classic. You can't fight it. But the movie that wins all the other Oscars, because this is a year that had, like, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Stagecoach, and the movie that MGM also made this year that was the most expensive film of all time. It cost $4 million, and it is the most movie a movie can be.
Yes.
It's the biggest movie. It is
Gone with the Wind.
That's right. Gone with the Wind came out the same year for the same studio as Wizard of Oz, and if you look this up, and I implore you to do, Gone with the Wind is the most profitable film of all time, adjusted for inflation. And it has made more money than any other film ever made, because people watched this movie forever. This movie was one of those, when it came out, we're going to take the whole family to see Gone with the Wind, and we're going to go and see it 4 or 5 fucking times. It was like Star Wars. I also gone different times. I'm going to see Star Wars 5 times in the theater. Oh, this cool, like, 2-hour, like, action, science fiction, fantasy epic. And then I'm going to go see Gone with the Wind 5 times, this 4.5-hour period melodrama about a woman being like, fuck the men in my life, I'm going to do this shit on my own. Dichotomies of the world. But yeah, like, this movie suffered from the fact that it came out the same year as Gone with the Wind. Why did The Pagemaster fail? It came out the same year as Forrest Gump and Lion King. You know,
and then Disney was like, "Oh, we're gonna flex on you again and re-release Lion King right before your movie comes out."
Fucking, when you come with the mouse, you better not miss. But that's the kind of the reality. This is also 1939 is one of the most stacked years in cinema history. I think historically people go back and call this the greatest year in cinema. It's like this 1975 and 1999 are the ones that everyone kind of goes back to and say, like, if you're going to power rank the best years in film, it's one of these 3. And Wizard of Oz is part of that conversation. You know, when you have Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind the same year, kind of hard to fucking deny it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it eventually, through all, like, the re-releases and the box office, and generally it makes its money back. I think it ends up making like $30 million domestic, which is, you know, okay for a $3 million budget. It took you 20 years to do it. But critically, everyone comes around to The Wizard of Oz. This is now considered one of the greatest films of all time. In the AFI Top 100 Films of All Time, it's like number 6. It's been on the Sight and Sound Top 100 more than a few times. I think its highest ranking was number 10 in the 2002 list. But yeah, it is a movie that has been critically acclaimed and culturally impactful. I think I said earlier, and for all the David Lynch fans out there, The Wizard of Oz is the Rosetta Stone of David Lynch movies. It shows up a lot more in his work than you think. Also, like Andrei Tarkovsky, he cited this as one of his favorite films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that with like the reason Stalker goes from sepia to color is because of Wizard of Oz. He saw that and he's like, I want to recreate that. I want to recreate that dream feeling. Sam Raimi, I don't think it's a surprise. The guy's like, I want to pushing all of my Spider-Man chips into making Oz the Great and Powerful. The movie's relevant. The movie hangs on. But do you have anything else you want to say about The Wizard of Oz?
No, I love this movie so much. I'm glad we're finally talking about it. I think we needed all those years of practice to be able to kind of get to this moment and be able to dissect it while praise it, because it is such a phenomenal movie. The cast is stellar.
Let's be real. If I came in here talking trash, I wouldn't have made it out of this room.
You would not. You probably wouldn't have lasted a minute. But it's just, the songwriters, the people that wrote it, the people that built the sets and created the costumes. It was truly lightning in a bottle.
This is the most lightning in a bottle a film can be. It's a perfect object.
It's like, I love this movie so much. I've seen the stage play. I saw it, in the 90s when I was a kid, because, I grew up loving this movie. So I'm honored to be able to talk about the great Judy Garland. I'd love to go to the museum someday and just, cry looking at more props.
Cry like a girl.
But I love this movie so much. And if you haven't seen it, please watch it, because it's truly a wonderful film, a sweet film.
I wish we had another half hour to talk about how this movie is falling out of culture.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we're not the last generation that, got to watch this on TV. If you have children, please, show your children this movie, because it is special. It does teach you to dream and to be courageous and to use your heart and your brain. Give it a watch.
It's The Wizard of Oz. You fucking watch it.
Yes.
Nerd. Yeah. I got nothing more to say. Wizard of Oz, great movie, one of the greats. Every time I've watched it as an adult, I kind of love it more. But yeah, great movie. 7 out of 10. Would watch again.
10 out of 10 for me.
Yes. Yeah, of course it's a 10 out of 10. I do it for the alliteration. But with that, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we are jumping onto a guest episode with one of our favorite guests, sister of the podcast. Beth is going to be back.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about, should we say it with an accent?
Of course.
We're talking about Chicago.
That's right. We're talking about Chicago. The 2002 musical, Fosse-inspired Chicago.
With Renee Zellweger and...
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes.
Also Richard Gere.
And Richard Gere.
Yes. I guess the crux of the month is we're talking about Hollywood musicals that were huge at the time. Because Wizard of Oz, culturally, is one of the most culturally relevant musicals of all time. Chicago is one of those musicals that revived the musical genre in the early 2000s, and also, we'll talk about it, was one of the big Oscar upset musicals ever. It's a big movie. But if you wanted to listen to that episode, where can they go?
If you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're breaking the fourth wall here on YouTube.
You can go to our YouTube channel, The Film Vault. That is The Film Vault on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to these video episodes.
We know we haven't done them in a while, so we had to come back with one.
We did, yes. For all the Spotify listeners, Wizard of Oz is a video episode, so go check that out on YouTube and see us cut awkwardly around when Dean has to go use the bathroom. But
it happens.
Go to the Film Vault because the Film Club was taken. But if you wanted to follow us on our social medias and find the links to those episodes, you can go to
our Instagram page, the Film Club Podcast, where we have all the links, including a link to our YouTube channel. We'll have pictures, with some of the props that are in this episode, stuff that we saw at the Academy Museum, reels, guests that are going to be on future episodes, and just random adventures that we get into.
And with that,
there's no place like home.
Have a good week, everybody.